I'm back. I'm going to teach you guys something I saw online that looks really delicious. And I'm going to try it out of my memory, which I cook a lot, so I think I can wing it. All right, so what you're going to need is about 2 pounds worth of corned beef brisket. And I think it's 1 to 3 pounds or 1 to 2.5 pounds. You boil it for 2.5 hours. 3 to 5 pounds, 3 to 3.5 hours. Okay, so that has got another 45 minutes yet. But in the meantime, I'm gonna prep onions, sauerkraut, just did a count of it, and I can't think of the word. What are they called? No, I said gnocchis. If you don't have pierogies and you only have gnocchis, you can use them too because they're also potato based. So, oh, I forgot my potatoes. Herb potatoes are delicious. I got the little baby ones. See, potatoes. All right, so it's quite Irish, and it's delicious. And it's some Thousand Island dressing. You don't have to make a thing of it. I just got Wishbone. This is what, $2? I mean, I remember when this was 99 cents, but you know, you don't have to break the bank to make this, okay? So I'm gonna do a half an onion for this. I'm gonna put the other one away because I'm gonna teach you guys either tomorrow or Wednesday, or tomorrow is Wednesday. No, tomorrow's Tuesday. Either tomorrow or Wednesday how to make a natural, homemade vodka sauce with gnocchi. All right? You can make it with macaroni too, but I'm gonna do mine with gnocchi. I guess I'm feeling kind of potato-y lately. I know. I got these little suction cups still as my knobs. You know, knobs cost money, and I gotta kind of ease up a little bit financially. I had to fix a few things when I first moved in, so there you have it. I'm gonna use the lesser half because to make vodka sauce, you don't really need a lot of onion, but you do. Excuse me, it does add a nice flavor. But for this dish, you do need a bit. You're gonna caramelize it, all right? So for this, all you need to do is just take out that outer layer here. Take its clothes off. There we go. See? Nice and clean. Pull that off. Cut off the buttholes. There you go. All right. Yes. All right. So let's rinse off the little bit of chaff that's on it. Got some chaff on there. We'll rinse it off of this too, so you don't end up with chaff in your dish. What is chaff? Chaff is the outer covering of a seed, a root, or whatever that you don't really eat. So there you have it. Just gonna do some linear cuts. We'll cut this way. Nothing too crazy. So just gonna try to hold this thing together, right? You don't have to be exact, just, you know. So in the brine that I made for the corned beef is I put about a cup worth of pickle juice, just regular kosher dill pickle juice. And then, because it's an empty jar, so I ended up draining or straining out the, I'll show you, the strainer, like all the pepper kernels and all the garlic and stuff that's in the pickle jar, and I put it in with the corned beef. That kind of gives it a nice taste. You know what I mean? I like it. It's almost like the brined, what you would call it, corned beef that you get for St. Patty's Day. It's got like the stuff already pre-made in the bag. It's got like the peppercorns, and all the seasoning that kind of goes with it. So it's basically the same thing. All right, there you go. You just cut some lines here, and what you're gonna do is we are gonna caramelize these. Real simple. You do a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil. Make sure it's kind of like almost like a brown color, and then we're gonna mix it with sauerkraut. Now the sauerkraut I'm gonna drain real well, and then put with this. And then after that, we're gonna make the herb potatoes. And this, my friends, can feed at least a family of 4. All right, and this costed me what? Maybe about $20. something like that. That's New Jersey prices, like maybe $21, $22. Unless you already got some of this stuff. If you have sauerkraut, great. If you have Thousand Island dressing, great. If you have some potatoes on hand, amazing. Pierogies, I got 2 packages of pierogies. They were on sale, so I got them. So, I know it's canola. I hate it, but just gonna do like that. Now, when I say about a blank worth, means it's not exact. So this is about a tablespoon and a half worth. About, okay? So we're gonna go ahead, get this ready. And I'll bring you over here so we can, you know, get well acquainted, if you will. I know. There, now you can see what I'm doing. It's a shame I can't, oh, I can zoom in. Awesome, all right. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. Put the heat on, about medium. Just gonna put the onions on right away. Alright. I'm debating whether I want to keep the herb potatoes on the side or if I want to mix it in there. But you don't need the potatoes. That's just my thing. You do not need the potatoes. Alright, you're gonna need some salt, pepper. Excuse me, you're right where I need to go. Salt, pepper. I like white pepper. I'll put some white pepper in it. Alright, there you go. I gave you your place back. Sprinkle a little salt on it. Okay. Now corned beef is pretty salty, so you don't need too much. Enough pepper to make it dirty. So it's quite speckled, all right? And just a touch of white pepper. This can pack a punch. Just a couple little pieces there, but it does taste amazing. But in here, what I did was about a cup of pickle brine, and I basically strained out all the stuff from the pickle brine. So you got the garlic, the mustard seeds, all of that, right? And then this allspice, whatever that thing is, right? I think it's an allspice kernel. I just let that go for 2.5 hours, right? Meanwhile, we're gonna do the butter. Oh, and about a tablespoon worth of Dijon mustard, i.e. Grey Poupon. That kind of gives it a nice taste. All right. Now, we're gonna do a little bit of butter. Gives it a nice taste. Just under. Oh, there you are. Just put it right there in the middle. Okay. We'll stir it around a little bit. And you want these to get nice and soft. Like, you want to go past translucency. So when they're translucent for a lot of dishes, that's all I would need for, say, making a stew or something. But for this, you want them to be caramelized. So you want to cook them. You don't want to burn them, but you want them to be kind of like wet and brown. Does that make sense? You don't want them dry and charred. So I have it on medium heat, okay? They're nice and linear now. They seem hard, but once you caramelize them, they'll be a lot more like noodles. All right? I'll see you guys in a couple minutes. While we are waiting, let's get the sauerkraut open. You want to drain it well. Depending on the vinegar content of it, I may rinse it. Let me see. It's not bad. Not bad at all. All right. Just gonna drain this well in the sink. This is actually really good sauerkraut for store brand. Yeah, just because it's store brand doesn't mean it's like meh. The things that I don't care for, store brand stuff like cake mix. Sometimes I feel like it's a little. I mean, at least with ShopRite, it could be different with other stores. But my go-to is ShopRite. You know what I noticed? Now, unfortunately, I bought drumsticks, which is made by Nestle, I know, from a big box conglomerate, whatever. Paid $10.88 for them. Drumsticks, you know, the not the chicken. These, okay? I'm sorry, 10, 11. So then I look on my Instacart. It's like, here's some things you may like at a good price. Walmart has it for $8 and change. And I'm like, oh man, but at the same time, I'm like, wait a second, I'm not purchasing from Walmart. That is an actual big box conglomerate. Not to say grocery stores are not, but grocery stores are a little less. They're more local. I'll pay a little extra to keep my grocery store in business because I feel like Walmart's getting to be too powerful. If you ask me, see here, it's starting to get a little bit more loosey-goosey. All right, so you want these to caramelize. Once you do that, we'll put the sauerkraut in it and just let it simmer on low heat. Now, unfortunately, I don't have pierogies from the Polish market. Oh my gosh, there's a place up in North Jersey called Piast. They make the best pierogies you'll ever eat in your life, and the mushroom sauerkraut ones are my favorite, and that would have been perfect for this dish. But I digress. I got these regular box brand. Got these guys here. It'll do. I got one classic onion, one 4-cheese medley. You know, to me they all taste like a baked potato that's from the grocery store. But all right, so while that's going, I'm gonna rinse off my potatoes. Would you like to watch me rinse my potatoes? Okay. This is me rinsing my potatoes. They can be a little dusty, so. I'm gonna leave the skin on them. If there's some like big eyes, I'll cut them off, and then I'll basically just simply cut them in half. I'll boil them briefly. All right. So I guess while the onions are caramelizing, why don't we do these? Okay. There we go. Don't run. Don't run away from me.
All right, so this one's... Oh, yes. Good catch. All right. Told you I'm klutzy. All right. Okay, see, simply just chop them in half. They got a really big eye on them, just cut it out. Oh, you sucky. Just cut it out. Probably should do this with a paring knife. Oh, well. Oh, well. All right. This one's pretty big, so we'll cut this one in fourths. All right. All right, this one's got a pretty big eyeball. I'll put the sauerkraut on them. I'll show you what I didn't want to happen, but it's okay. It's not bad. They're not like blackened yet. But you kind of want them more caramelized, not so much burnt on the edges. And the sauerkraut kind of zings the onions. It's such a nice little marriage. All right. Yes, I did try some. It's very good. Sorry, guys. I'm taking forever. I'm just going to speed up this part of the video. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, I was not recording. I was talking to you guys the whole time. All right, I cut all of the potatoes. They are now in the pot. The water is about an inch above the top of the potatoes. Put it on high heat. Salt it real good. Not just a sprinkle, you want to do a good amount. That was about a good teaspoon worth. Put some pepper in there. A little bit of white pepper. And what I like to do is, do I have any garlic in there? I need some garlic and herb. If you have onion powder, that would actually go well in the, almost said coleslaw mix, in the sauerkraut and onion. but I do not. I might have some minced onion I can put in there. Because that dried onion taste does taste good. I had like one little bowl worth of onion powder left. All right, so for the herb potatoes, I'm gonna do thyme, sage, pepper, garlic, of course, which I'm gonna take out a couple cloves and start cutting those up. So for herb potatoes, it's a whole bunch. All right, well, why not? I mean, I got a whole thing of potatoes in there. All right, so garlic and herbed roasted potatoes. Just use that to cut up the potatoes. So we'll go ahead and chop this coarsely. There we go. There you go. All right, just gonna go ahead and coarsely chop these. All right. To make it easy for you, I'm gonna do this. All right, so that was a bag of herb potatoes, or potatoes, baby potatoes. All right, so you got this much garlic. Now, thyme can be a little strong. So we'll do about a half a teaspoon worth. Just about, and just under. All right, so it's between an eighth and a half a teaspoon worth of thyme. Ground sage, same thing. About that much. Pop it in there. Parsley. And for herb potatoes, most definitely herbes du Provence, because that has your has tarragon in it, has your. All right, so we'll do. That's a half a teaspoon. We'll do a teaspoon worth of parsley. All right. You want to do basil? Do basil. I'm not. So what I will do is a half a teaspoon of herbes du Provence. This is a pretty strong flavor, but it actually tastes good on your potatoes. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right. Here we go. About a half a teaspoon of that. About that much of white pepper, a drizzle, sprinkle, whatever you want to call it. We got some table blend from Mrs. Dash. This kind of gives it a nice flavor to it. So we'll do just under a half a teaspoon. All right. This just adds some flavor. I mean, if you don't have it, don't worry. And of course, we're going to do some pepper. All right. That's going to take forever. There you go. A little bit of salt, not a lot. All right, that should do it. Stir that up a little bit. Has a nice smell. All right, nice aroma to it. Did you see Jan Helper Hayes, I think her name is? She works for the Department of Defense. She's on the board. If you haven't seen the interview on, what is it, Breakfast with Ellie and so-and-so, GBN News, basically everything the Q board's saying, she's saying out in the open. Like, oh, we couldn't just tell the people, sometimes you just have to show them. Like, there was like truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. It was amazing. You know what? I'm gonna put that video on the end. I might do that. And then maybe if I'll find a cue post that lines up with what she's saying, and just like the clip will end for a second and you'll see the cue post, because I don't know how to like pop it up while the video's going. I'm not that good, so if you guys can tolerate that, I'll be more than happy to post it for you. Yeah, this is great. So I can refreeze it for later on in the week. It's great for meal prepping. So I can have this tonight and tomorrow for lunch, and then the next 1 or 2 times I can just take it out of the freezer and heat it up, you know? And that's it. All right, so this one's the onion one. And this one is the 4 cheese medley. I don't have high hopes for this. Sometimes I just feel like potato and cheese, just, I don't know. The onion one, I actually kind of have high expectations for. We'll see. All right, so we'll take the pan off for now. I do need some cooking space. Put some peanut oil in there. There you go. And I'll do that. Now, we're gonna deep fry some pierogies. All right, so we'll do this just to keep it from splattering. Yay? Yay. All right, it's lemonade. Splash H2O lemonade. I don't know what it is. Every time I video myself cooking, I just want splash. Usually I just drink water. I typically will have 1 glass with dinner. I tell you what, it is a diuretic. It will make you pee. That it will do. Just a little bit, not too much. And let the fun begin. So you basically fry this until they start floating. This should have been like sizzling by now. It's a little small. Potatoes haven't even started boiling yet. You know, a little bit. Okay. Great. Now we got this deep frying. Actually, it seems to be pretty safe. All right. We'll hold this to the side because it does start splattering. Can I tell you, my kitchen smells awesome. I mean, since I popped this on, like I went outside for a second, came back in, I was like, whoa. And I didn't even start cooking all the other stuff yet. This is gonna be an amazing dish. Probably should have gotten 2 cans of sauerkraut because I'm making kibasi. Probably, well, I don't have to do it this week. I could do it next week. But when I saw this online, I was like, I gotta do this. It looks so good. So here I am doing it. I was like, oh, I guess you boil them first, but you just don't boil them as much. No, you just deep fry them right out of the box. All right. All right, I'll be back once I get all this out. See you in a second. What I'm basically saying here is that the potatoes are done. So I took them out of the pot, poured them into the strainer, or I'm doing that right now. Even if there's a little bit of water left in it, that's okay, because that's gonna burn off when you saute them. I'm just gonna use a little bit of olive oil, some butter to saute along with the herbs. You will find out towards the end of this video that I did indeed use a little too much sage and a little too much thyme. As I've said in the beginning, it's very pungent in your dish, and I didn't realize that even if it was just under a teaspoon, it was still too much. We're just going to saute the garlic first in butter and olive oil. At this point, I simply turn the heat off from the corned beef. Yes, I still have the stupid fan going, And I'm about to throw my first set of pierogies into the peanut oil. And the peanut oil in the pan was not filled high enough, so I was only able to put 5 in my first batch. Stir garlic occasionally. Salt it. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper to it, turn up the heat, and I'm going to add some cooking sherry, about 3 tablespoons worth. Bada bing. There you go. So at this point, I'm going to put the potatoes in, along with all of that extra seasoning. Hindsight's always 20/20. What I could have done was poured in half of what was in that cup and then see what happens. And then I said that I was going to cook this at 375 for about 15 minutes, just enough to crisp the edges, because you boiled it, you sauteed it. At this point now, you're just going to bake it a little bit, dry it up, and make it a little crispy. Stir often to mix well. Still mixing. Any longer, I'll cut the tape shorter. I added some more salt because the potatoes still tasted very bland. It's probably one of the more forgiving vegetables with regards to salt. Here you see me turning the pierogies while they're deep frying so that they fry evenly around the outside. I also stated here that I did not fill the pot enough with peanut oil, so that's why I had to be a little bit more attentive to this. Look at that, so nice. Smells amazing. Just giving my potatoes an extra flap and fold. Okay, just taking these out. I put a little bit more garlic in the potatoes. I tried one. Not enough salt, not enough garlic, so I just added a little bit more. And I'm going to do a little bit more olive oil, just a little. Because when you put it into the oven, you're going to need a little bit to make it crispy. Alright. So I'm going to stir this up real good. And I'm thinking maybe I'll do a little bit more butter. See, these are browning up real nice. Bada bing. Take the heat off of this, and then we're going to preheat the oven to 75. Start. There we go. These guys are a little bit more golden brown, but that was because I didn't put enough oil, so it was kind of floating for the most part. I forgot lemon pepper. All right. This looks very herby, doesn't it? All right, I'm gonna try one. The thyme, I could taste it. It was supposed to just be a little added, so it's okay. Especially if you like how thyme tastes. And with a steak, this would be amazing. But next time, I would go a little lighter on the thyme. The Herbes du Provence has thyme in it, and I forgot to take that into account. But I'm gonna do it. I just spent all day cleaning my house yesterday, and I had to do it all over again. But worth it. So worth it. Alright, I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing because they keep disappearing off the camera, and you know, I'm like all over the place. Alright, let this go for about another minute. Alright, I'm gonna get that on a thingy. I mean, technically, I could. Never mind. Take the side for about a second. These handles are so hot. Alright. Alright. Pop that in the oven. Put it on the bottom shelf. So I want it nice and crispy. I'm going to do that for 10 minutes. I'll just look 10-15 minutes. Actually, hold on. Okay, I just set the alarm for 10 minutes. Yum, garlic. I guess I am a garlic eater. I'm going to go ahead and heat this up a little bit. As a matter of fact, we could probably leave these on it, right? Allow some room for the other guys, right? Oh. I'm going to put that up in a second. That's the corn beef. If you want. If you don't want to deep fry them, you can actually cook them in there for about 4 minutes and boom, you're done. Alright, so I'm not going to use all of them, but I really should line my stove with aluminum foil so that it's just a little bit less cleanup at the end. But you know, I live and I don't learn. Well, that's going. We're gonna slice some corned beef. And I have too much shit in this kitchen. Like, I tried to be organized and I'm like, oh, I need this, I need this. All right. Pendant lights, they said. Everybody wants them, they said. Seriously? Alright. I mean, technically I could shred this like shredded meat, but I'm just gonna kind of cut them like this, and then it's still a little hot. So I'm just gonna cut these pieces. Kind of like shredded meat. Ooh, it does smell a lot like brisket. All right. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them all in one pot. And even if they break a little bit, it's okay. But yeah, look at what it yields. That's a lot. That is a lot. Plus I got more coming. Let's go ahead and test try one. Ooh, hot. I mean, I think the 4 cheese kind of overkills it a little bit. Want some? Okay, final step. Make your plate. Oh shit, I thought there was like a little dippy thing on it. Well, there you have it. Let's give it a try, shall we? All right, here we go. I try really hard not to let you hear my chewing. It's gross. All right, ready? Then I'm gonna go look for the Jan Helper Hayes video and break it down. Only thing, I wish I had more sauerkraut to make it a little bit more wet, if you will. This is kind of dry. But outside of that, this is delicious. I bet you guys are wondering, what about the potatoes? I forgot. That's why you put an alarm on for it. So, here you have them. Bada bing. Let's give it a taste. Again, what I would do differently with that is I would definitely ease up on the thyme and sage, if at all. If you have herbes de Provence, that's all you need. And I wouldn't even do a half a teaspoon of it. I'd probably do less. I mean, it's herb potatoes, but it's almost like herb with a little bit of potato. But nonetheless, it's still good. The herbs do overpower the potato and the garlic. But again, it's not bad. It's not terrible. I could do better, but I'm glad it wasn't a cook-along, because you guys would probably be real pissed off at me, like, oh my god, all I taste is herbs. So, all right, take care, guys. Bye. Very interesting. For those of you who have been following me, that I have spoken of Il Donato Trumpo. Ever since he got banned from Twitter, a new account had opened up called Il Donato Trumpo. And let's take a look at what he's got here. It says, that one's for Hawaii, bitch.
Any Colorado special counsel, Mr. President? Will you be handing it?
Interesting. Direct energy weapon. I think he answered.
And he questions the timing of the indictment.
You know, I don't believe any of this has anything to do with January 6th. If it did, and if January 6th was everything that they said, why, Nigel, did they wait 2.5 years to charge him? I mean, the people that were there that did those, they were charged that day.
Well, let's talk to Jan Halper-Hayes, who's a US political analyst, and he's here in the studio. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you.
There's so many people putting this down as a political conspiracy theory, but actually there are real questions to be answered here.
There are?
Yeah, of course there are. Of course there are.
What he's being accused of, but what part do you think is to answer that the 2020 election is going to be litigated because of this? They've made a huge, huge mistake with this one, because even though we thought what was going to happen was they were going to go after him for treason or sedition, but they did criminally charge him, but they didn't go to that extreme. As a result, he has due process, so he can subpoena people and bring things in. Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because, what we see on this side of the pond is a very difficult situation where the legal system is politicised in the United States, which is abhorrent to us over here. So the fact that Trump can subpoena, some people saying it's a mistake by Jack Smith, but actually he can subpoena, people can actually see evidence from both sides. That's a sensible move.
Exactly. And it's a great mistake by Jack Smith that he's done that. Absolutely great. See, the thing is, think about Edward Snowden and all the information he had. Think about the fact that our military, our Department of Defense Space Force, if you think that they don't have the actual real results from the election, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, but what we do know with this is we're told that there are plenty of notes from people, including Vice President Pence, that there are some recordings of Donald Trump acknowledging that actually what he said in public was nonsense. That some of these states, whether he claimed he was out saying look, Detroit, it's corrupt, it's all corrupt, the results are corrupt. And that when in reality he knew it wasn't. That's illegal.
But you know what? That's what someone's claiming, but that's not the fact, and that's not what Donald Trump really has ever said. He's been very, very clear. I mean, the issues were, for example, in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and changed some of the election laws. Under our Constitution, it's only the state legislators that can do that. 2,000 Mules, the film that came out, what they did, they spent over $4 million tracking the phones. And the reason it's only 2,000 mules is that based on the visits to the drop boxes in Georgia, they had to have gone over 10 times. And they've got all the film for that. So the thing is that the election integrity is so different and so problematic in every single state. But that doesn't mean that the machines didn't do something, that there were some other kind of finagling. But the long and short... Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't, but that's where conspiracy comes in, is it? To say, well, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. Well, there's no evidence that it happened. I mean, there's how many court cases did the Trump campaign try to bring? Nothing's gone in his favour.
Okay, wait a minute. Everyone, the media goes, oh, there were 60 court cases that were rejected. No, there were 3. He won 2, he lost 1, 57 were never heard because they had no standing. And standing means that the person bringing the case has to claim some kind of impact or injury. So it's really, the media did that, and they're great at doing that, but it was a fallacy in there. And the thing is that, I sit on a task force at the Department of Defense, and the thing is, they've got the goods. They've got the goods, and Trump knew that if he presented any of the goods early on, we'd have a civil war. That he really felt that the people needed to see how bad it could get.
And that's the sense that we're getting from Trump's lawyer about what his defence is going to be. So this is all going to be based on free speech, the First Amendment in the US Constitution, that he had a right to say what he believed, and he believed that the election results were not as was put out. But the point is, if you live in a democracy and you believe in a democracy, then that means that even if you don't like the outcome of an election, you respect that, because it's a democratic vote.
Well, a democratic vote, and so therefore he should be silent about it.
No, he has a right to speak, but the issue, of course, is if he then acts to subvert that election result.
Oh, so that because you think he's being criticized because in Georgia he said, can you find me 12,000 votes? Or, the thing is, he didn't try to subvert anything. What he's really done is he set up the deep state to come out, and that's why we're seeing all these things. I mean, it was revealed with whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's ex-best friend that in 2015, the head of Burisma gave Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million bribe. In 2018, Joe is on TV publicly saying that he threatened that unless they got the prosecutor fired, that he wasn't going to let them have their $1 billion in support. In 2019, Trump calls Zelensky to find out about what went on to get the prosecutor fired, and he gets impeached. I mean, we've lived with it for a long time.
We're almost out of time. I just want to pick you up on one thing. You said earlier on, Donald Trump has been very clear on this. Is he a man that you believe? I mean, look, he's about believable as a chocolate teapot, isn't he?
Look, I know that, thank God you got the negativity in at the end and not the beginning. I can always count on you for that, always.
But it's a legitimate point to say that Donald Trump is a man who always speaks the truth. That can't be the case. I mean, it's hardly the case of any leader, to be fair, but, I mean, definitely not Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know if I said everything or always, because I do call him the embellisher-in-chief, because he's a marketer. But in terms of telling us things, optics, you better believe that he's very much a straight shooter in terms of actions that he's going to take or what he thinks needs to be done. You know, they made fun of him because they assumed he broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps, he stopped, and he waited for her to join. That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871. And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. You know, forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War. And so that is what Trump has now, he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halper-Hayes, really good to see you. Thank you very much.
What he's being accused of, but what part do you think is to answer that the 2020 election is going to be litigated because of this? They've made a huge mistake with this one, because even though we thought what was going to happen was they were going to go after him for treason or sedition, but they did criminally charge him, but they didn't go to that extreme. As a result, he has due process, so he can subpoena people and bring things in. Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case. And it's a great mistake by Jack Smith that he's done that. Absolutely great. See, the thing is, think about Edward Snowden and all the information he had. Think about the fact that our military, our Department of Defense Space Force, if you think that they don't have the actual real results from the election, then you're fooling yourself.
And when in reality, he knew it wasn't. That's illegal.
But you know what? That's what someone's claiming, but that's not the fact, and that's not what Donald Trump really has ever said. He's been very, very clear. I mean, the issues were, for example, in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and changed some of the election laws. Under our Constitution, it's only the state legislators that can do that. 2,000 Mules, the film that came out, what they did, they spent over $4 million tracking the phones. And the reason it's only 2,000 mules is that based on the visits to the drop boxes in Georgia, they had to have gone over 10 times. And they've got all the film for that. So the thing is that the election integrity is so different and so problematic in every single state, But that doesn't mean that the machines didn't do something, that there were some other kind of finagling. But the long and short... Go ahead.
Nothing's gone in his favour.
Okay, wait a minute. Everyone, the media goes, oh, there were 60 court cases that were rejected. No, there were 3. He won 2, he lost 1, 57 were never heard because they had no standing. And standing means that the person bringing the case has to claim some kind of impact or injury. So it's really, you know, the media did that, and they're great at doing that, but it was a fallacy in there. And the thing is that, you know, I sit on a task force at the Department of Defense, and the thing is, they've got the goods. They've got the goods, and Trump knew that if he presented any of the goods early on, we'd have a civil war. That he really felt that the people needed to see how bad it could get. A Democratic vote, and so therefore he should be silent about it.
He has a right to speak, but the issue, of course, is if he then acts to subvert that election result.
Oh, so that because you think he's being criticized because in Georgia he said, can you find me 12,000 votes? Or, you know, the thing is, he didn't try to subvert anything. What he's really done is he set up the deep state to come out, and that's why we're seeing all these things. I mean, it was revealed with whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's ex-best friend that in 2015, the head of Burisma gave Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million bribe. In 2018, Joe is on TV publicly saying that he threatened that unless they got the prosecutor fired, that he wasn't going to let them have their $1 billion in support. In 2019, Trump calls Zelensky to find out about what went on to get the prosecutor fired, and he gets impeached. I mean, we've lived with it for a long time. I don't know if I said everything or always, because I do call him the embellisher-in-chief, because he's a marketer. But in terms of telling us things, optics, you better believe that he's very much a straight shooter in terms of actions that he's going to take or what he thinks needs to be done. You know, they made fun of him because they assumed he broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps. He stopped, and he waited for her to join. That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871. And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. You know, forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War. And so that is what Trump has now he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic, and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halberhayes, really good to see you. Thank you very much.